never used this before.
Yeah, so this software is cool because even if we get a little bandwidthy, like it gets a little sketch, it records locally. So like it won't like pixelate the camera files if one or me or you bloop out or anything like that. So it's pretty nice. But
Dude, high tech.
yeah. I was thinking about when I kind of lost touch with like everything you're up to, and I think it's when you really started focusing on Twitter or X,
Yes.
starting posting on there. So I
Yeah.
want to know what the heck has happened since then, man. Because I see the big updates, but I don't get the nitty gritties at all.
I know, man. And I realized that recently that I've kind of fallen out of touch with a lot of the people that I used to keep up almost daily with on IG.
Yeah,
Um, I guess kind of my focus shifted to X, Twitter back in the day, in kind of early 2021, when I kind of got really immersed in like the digital art market, and all things NFTs and crypto. I was one of the people that fell down that rabbit hole during COVID. Kind of came over from Clubhouse, which is I think how we met as well.
I think
Yeah,
so.
so you and I and a bunch of other younger creatives met through Clubhouse, but Clubhouse was also like my kind of rabbit hole into NFTs and such.
Okay.
So I guess like from 2017 to 2021, my primary focus was on Instagram as a platform and sharing my work there, treating it like a gallery and a way to connect with people. But since I kind of completely shifted focus in 2021, Twitter is like the primary communication medium for most of the crypto market, which is kind of where I ended up. So I don't know if you've noticed, I've been slowly easing back into trying to share on both platforms.
Yeah.
For a while, I found it super overwhelming to try to coordinate multiple social media, like as a student. But now I've kind of gotten into a rhythm where I can, I don't know, I can kind of share on both ends.
Yeah. And you took a break from both a little bit too here recently, right?
I did, yeah. So I started off the year with my grandmother in Norway. So that's where my family's from,
Yeah.
up in Norway. Her and I spent kind of 2 weeks driving around the Arctic Circle. It's incredible. One of my favorite places in the world. And during that time, I deleted all social media formats off my phone. It was wonderful. Had at times just like 30 minutes of screen time a day, mostly just to talk with my parents and such. And that was a much needed break for me because I realized like in the, I guess now 7 years that I've been in social media, like sharing stuff on there, I think the longest I've ever taken a break for was like 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
If that, honestly, like maybe a day. What about yourself? Have you ever taken an extended detox or?
No, not an extended detox. I've definitely, gotten habits where I'm not posting as much, but I've always had it. But my interesting routine has been, so currently I manage a few businesses' socials as well as myself.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that, man. Is that a newer thing?
It's been full time for the last year and a half. So
Congrats.
that's been, yeah, thank you so much. But my weird thing has been I after I'm done posting, I'll engage for like 10 minutes on each one or whatever, and then I delete them for the rest of the day. So
Ooh.
the goal is you create the stuff in the day
Yeah.
rather than, consuming. So that's kind of, I definitely take it on, but I definitely do it in, a little bit of caution. Like, you can get sucked away. So
I'm a fan of that.
yeah.
I think what we need in life with these social platforms is more friction.
Yeah.
For so many people, it's really easy to just kind of open their phone up and slip onto them without even thinking about it, myself included.
Yeah.
So especially with the time that I do spend online now, I'm trying to be really intentional. Like I'm opening this app for this reason to do this thing and not just to have it be like a mindless habit.
Yeah.
I've had like definitely issues with like media consumption in the past, just
Oh yeah.
because, and you know this, like our career revolves so heavily around these platforms
Hmm.
that it can be very difficult not to kind of become a victim of them
Right.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Um, but that's amazing to hear about the like social media moderation that you're
Yeah.
doing.
Yes. So yeah, I've been doing it for like a year and a half now. I for like a few businesses, and then it's reoccurringly. So then it gives me time
What
to.
niches are these businesses in?
Yeah. So starting off, it's been really a big scope. So one of them's like a real estate agency, just one of the agents, and then one of them's like a local tree service, and then another one is an all online platform that just wants reels advertising their Discord
Nice.
community. And so it's been super broad. And as I'm getting more specific on what I want to get into, it's getting a little more towards being an agency. But right now, it's kind of just like, hey, this kid knows his stuff. He can run your stuff, kind of a brand. So
Absolutely, man.
yeah,
You
yeah,
started local, and then you're kind of branching out into like,
exactly,
yeah, you build the portfolio. That's fantastic.
exactly. Yeah,
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 like you can start these sorts of things as an individual, and
yeah.
as your client list grows, it's, you know, maybe not a bad idea to convert into an agency, but
No,
then your energy shifts from the clients to managing, you know, people. Uh,
exactly.
I have a few friends who have experience with that, and it's not easy. It's like a whole other task.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it takes a lot of kind of internal organization, which you don't really think about when you get into it. But so
Yeah,
like things like Notion have been nice, and tools like that.
love Notion.
Yeah,
Notion
yeah. What
is
do you use it for?
everything, man. That's how I keep my life in check.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess since 2021, I think that was the year I graduated. No, I graduated high school in 2022, and so after that I moved to New York City. So I live in Manhattan right now. I'm in my dorm,
Yeah.
which is yeah, around. I don't know how familiar you are with New York.
Very not, but I know Manhattan's kind of the mainland.
Yeah, yeah, it's in the middle of things, which is amazing. I'm attending school at NYU, and so Notion is like so critical for me, kind of keeping up with all my art and creative stuff, and then kind of also leveraging Notion for like my academics. So you have like pages dedicated for courses and such.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Also a big Google Calendar guy,
Oh yeah.
um, essential
Oh
uh,
yeah.
for the way that I try to structure my days and weeks. Yeah, I definitely fell down that kick of like kind of, you know, gimmicky organizational services, and like, you know, trying different applications, seeing what worked for me. But honestly, I found that like Notion and Google Calendar are pretty much all I need to keep myself on task.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I definitely fell down that too, and you can fall down it too much to the point where you're not even helping yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
But
Some of these, it's just counter
yeah.
efficient, I guess.
I saw one video that really helped me, and it was kind of a 3-step process. Or your first step is capturing your thought, and that's the most raw and unhinged step of like, all right, this is where like a notes app comes in handy. I use a thing called Todoist, and it gets all my raw thoughts. And by the end of the day, the goal is to have that thing cleared, and so those thoughts are organized, and they get organized into either your Notion or your Google Calendar, because
We're
your
gonna have
thought.
Notion pages, because I think I
Yeah,
have Notion page exactly what it. There's some like structure.
yeah. Oh, 100%.
I've
Let me
also
reorganize mine before I give it to you.
oh, okay. No, dude, you gotta give it to me as it is. I want
Yeah,
to see the
that's probably
reality.
better. Yeah, yeah,
I've also become a huge like notebook guy. I have like,
yeah.
these little moleskins that I'll carry around and just write notes in.
Right.
That's like been my form of capturing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and it's been really. I feel like my mental clarity has improved substantially.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's just placebo and me kind of psyching myself into it.
Yeah,
But I definitely am a fan of the notebooks.
yeah.
Um, I
Well,
also have my phone.
right. Well, I could say both me and you have a little bit of ambition in us, a little bit, and I think what it really does is, yeah, I'd say so. Um, it shifts your problems from like stupid problems you'd be thinking about to like actual critical thinking problems that you need to take on. So rather than me like, I don't know, for some random thing like forgetting my lens at a shoot or that's not really what I use Notion for, but those type of problems, you're just like, what the heck? I forgot to do this. Like, you're thinking about like, all right, how am I going to capture this composition the best rather than forgetting something or something like that. So
Are
that's
you
kind of
still
what I
shooting?
think about. Yeah,
You
yeah.
still making content yourself?
Yeah, so I make my own content. Like I've been hitting reels pretty hard, but it felt really good. I just got back from Southern California and was able to take back like some photos, which I haven't done in a while, just going out and shooting. So yeah, I always have a camera on me, and I'm shooting video every week, but it's mostly for like clients and stuff. But I've been shooting my own content and putting out podcasts every week and YouTube videos every week and reels every day. I mean, I'm in the full workflow.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been nuts.
Dude, I'm super out of the loop. I gotta catch up and check out some of your YouTube videos, especially. What
Yeah,
are your
yeah.
kind of 2024 aspirations with all of this? Do you have like some goals that
Uh,
right?
my goals are really, I'm bad with goals. I think it's more just like I'm doing what I want to do. I just keep needing to put the motions into place. So like big unorganized goals is just want to take myself from more of like a, all right, I've been doing the whole like self-employed owning your own business thing. Now let's like organize it a bit,
Narrow in, dude.
exactly narrow it down. And so those steps could be bringing on more people here soon, and going under kind of another name for the bigger agency stuff, and just keep doing that because I
Okay.
really feel like I'm on a nice track. So that's kind of
Got
my
any
goals
other
for this
mutual
year.
friends on here
Mutual friends,
on this podcast?
like between me and you.
Yeah, I'm like,
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I can't think of any from the top of my head, but
uh,
there's 24 other of these things, and I bet
um,
rarely any of them are just like in-person friends. It's all online connections. So yeah, you definitely recognize some names for sure.
yeah. Shout out to the Clubhouse Creative Chat.
Yeah, because that's one thing that just made it easy to like start this thing. It's like I'm already kind of having these conversations anyways, so I might as well just
Right.
like record them, and I feel like there's something to take from these conversations.
Dude, I love the format of this.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like vibing, chatting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you think?
Uh, Talk to me about. I want to hear you. Out of all the creatives I would know, you're the deepest into the digital art space.
Yeah.
And I only know like the baseline of it. Well, probably a little more than the baseline. I just want to hear the really in of it. So if you would have told me that you were part of that NFT scene on Clubhouse, I would have been like, I didn't even know that existed in
Yeah.
Clubhouse days. I thought that started afterwards, after Clubhouse died.
Well, it was kind of on the tail end of things.
Okay.
I mean, Clubhouse is it's like in the graveyard now. But it was really funny. So like I was super active on Clubhouse because I mean at the time we were in high school. It was school got moved online. I was just kind of in my room for most of the day, and just between classes and after class, I would just hop on there to talk to people about photography and videography and the stuff that we were into. Still am. Um, and one of the rooms I stumbled into on a Friday night was about NFTs and crypto, which were super foreign to me at the time. I think they're still kind of meaningless words to most people. And I think NFTs especially have such a sour taste in most people's mouth because it's so associated with like scams and monkey pictures and all those silly things, which is definitely a corner of it. But there's also like this subsection of NFT culture that's very hyperfixated on kind of the term I guess would just be digital art. So you have like traditional art markets like Picasso, Banksy, Warhol, and that's kind of like that's what's established. And then there's like this little microcosm within NFTs of artists that grew up making digital art, either like illustration or animation, 3D art, even photography to some extent has been integrated into this community. And so I found out about all this through Clubhouse, and I started hosting Clubhouse rooms just to talk about this because I was so interested in it. Um, NFTs are the vision that I saw because they're kind of heavily correlated with like digital ownership, and crypto is like, or like the chain that they exist on. It's supposed to be decentralized and all these buzzwords, but the gist of it is that it felt like an opportunity for us to own the work that we were putting out. As social media creators, a lot of the time when we post one of our photos or videos, it's like almost like we're giving up ownership of it to the platform that we put it on. And I really was seeking out a way to be able to release the art and photography that I was making, but still kind of make it mine. And I saw the blockchain as kind of like a solution to that, and there were many other kind of aspects to it as well. So I ended up getting banned from Clubhouse because I was 17, and in their age policy, it was you had to be 18 to be talking. I had built like such a nice following on there. I was so bummed. I guess somebody reported me, which is crazy. I don't know why you would take the time out of your day to do that. I was always really nice to people. But it was a silver lining because that was around the time that I shifted over to Twitter, and Twitter had just started doing these things called Twitter Spaces. I don't know if you've ever seen those, like the top of your bar. You can join in, listen, and they're kind of standard now, but at the time they were in beta, and it was a similar concept to Clubhouse. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna take what life has given me here, make lemonade, and just start hosting these instead of Clubhouse rooms, because it's the same concept, smaller amount of people. But then I really started, as those kind of took off, I was able to build a following in coordination, and I kind of just became known as like the Twitter Spaces kid. I was just hosting a ton of Twitter Spaces after school, just kind of having these open discussion rooms about photography, NFTs, digital art, and it was a really cool way for me to learn more about it as the host, because I had people joining that were way more knowledgeable about it than I was. So I was, even as like a host of the room, I was more just so a participant. I was just learning from all these people and getting to meet all these cool artists, even people that I had like followed for years on Instagram. Like the big photography people were joining, and we were talking, and it was like a really cool way for me to like break down these, what I had felt were like digital barriers of like conversation. And from there, I was just so inspired by all the conversations I was having that I just kind of went full in. I was like, okay, I only have so much energy to focus online each day. I'm going to take like 95% of it that I had been focusing on Instagram and Reels and stuff, and I'd kind of been losing interest at that point, and I put it all onto Twitter. Just posting, sharing. I think I minted my first NFT in April of, it might have even been 2022 by the time I actually minted my first piece, because I felt I had a good understanding. And that kind of kicked off a series of events for me where I was like, I mean, it was the largest amount of money that I had ever made from my work, selling just one of these photos as an NFT. I ended up being very fortunate with the collector and the price that it sold for. And it immediately kind of outmatched every single client job that I had ever done, which was felt crazy. And then it was kind of no looking back from there. It just kind of made sense for me to continue this path. I'd built my base, and from there, I started to talk with way more people than just photographers. Started talking to illustrators, and 3D modelers, and a lot of these other people who are kind of entering the NFT space as well, kind of post that really big Beeple sale. I don't know if you remember that, like $69 million created. It was like a collage of Beeple art, which is like, he's like very well known in the niche, but not so well known outside of things, so don't worry about it.
Right.
It was like 5,000 of his artworks that he had created over the years. And a lot of artists found out about NFTs through that, and I was part of that crowd. And so yeah, now my day-to-day consists of, like, especially here in New York City, I'm meeting a lot of artists, what I would classify as like digital art collectors, people that are buying and selling NFTs. A lot of the money that I've made from selling my own work as NFTs, I've kind of reinvested in the ecosystem, buying art from other artists. It's been a very kind of lucrative, it was especially lucrative in 21 and 22. Now it's kind of a little tamer Like the markets, of course, globally are not as haywire as they were in those years. But it's become a kind of a major cornerstone of my life. A lot of the people I talk to daily are
Hmm.
in that ecosystem. And sometimes I feel like I'm in a bit of a bubble. Like it feels like my entire world, but I know it doesn't even exist to most people.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy it. I have a lot of fun just talking about art and technology and cutting edge of things. So that's where I spend my time now, man. I'm sorry that I haven't really kept in touch
No,
with you or a lot of other people.
no, I feel like it's been the general trend of people are just they check in, but it's a lot less. So I
Yeah,
wouldn't have anyways. It's just how it's great. I mean, we're
yeah.
doing our
I
thing.
think a lot of people have shifted away from Instagram.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, there's kind of like a new wave of people coming in. I like try to keep a finger on the pulse. But especially for a while, Instagram felt like it was on the out
Right.
almost. Like it almost felt like it was in danger.
Mm.
I think they've done a decent job at kind of regaining that status. Um, but it's definitely not the same as it was during COVID. I mean,
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
yeah,
How important was so when I saw like you moved to Twitter, I just immediately thought of like you say like what it's the most like stereotypical thing like you say like good
yeah,
morning and you're like
definitely.
yeah and you're like commenting on other people's thing and retweeting people's things and growing that way. But how important was Twitter Spaces to growing your community on Twitter?
I think it was crucial for me.
Mm-hmm.
I I feel like both Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces kind of helped me develop my speaking skills. Like as like a younger kid, I definitely was like not one that wanted to be in the spotlight necessarily. I couldn't really talk to save my life, but just out of like habit and consistency every day, just hopping on here, hosting, talking to people, I got a lot better with my voice. And I think that I was able to connect with people a lot more efficiently and deeply by having actual conversations with them over these things as opposed to like maybe conversing over like text or posts or DMs. To me, that doesn't really do it. Um, it's still part of the gig, but and then I took it a step further. Another thing that I like to do is kind of attend these kind of, I guess you could call them like conventions, or not even conventions, just like these gatherings of people within this space. There's some that are hosted annually in New York City. I've flown down to Miami twice to attend these events at like Art Basel, which is kind of a big traditional art fair, but also has now kind of the digital art world has seeped into that. Um, I went to Lisbon in Portugal over last summer to speak at a conference there. I guess, yeah, conference would be like the right word. Um, and like to me, there's like, okay, you have like commenting on people's posts to get to know them. Then you have like DMing and having a one-on-one conversation. Then there's like talking on spaces, which is kind of like a community group thing. Then you have one-on-one calls, and then you have face-to-face. Face-to-face is always going to be the best way to connect with people,
Mm-hmm.
build your community, because that's how you get the best feel for people. If you want to really build a solid relationship with somebody, I'm not saying that you can. Like obviously, you and I have never met, but we
Yeah.
still have like that friendship.
Yeah.
Um, but especially like one of the main reasons I moved to New York City was just because I recognized the importance of like in-person relationships. And there's so much of my little world of things that goes on this island
Oh yeah.
that I was like, okay, put me there. I'll go to school, but it's mostly just so I can be in New York City.
Right. Yeah.
um, it's a really exciting place to be.
Oh, 100%. And Twitter Spaces, it totally went over my head. Like I remember it being in beta, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
they're trying to capture that market, but I never touched on it since then. So yeah, like I said, I wouldn't have attributed that to like what you were doing on Twitter.
right. No, I think it's all really obscure to most people. Like it made so much sense to me. I was
Yeah.
like, wow, yeah, this is like the only way to do things. But like I wouldn't expect like an onlooker to get it because it just seems silly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if like Instagram even integrates some sort of
Yeah.
talking feature like that, maybe
Yeah.
down the line.
I really like the format, on Clubhouse, which is where I was mostly on it. But
Right.
once that died down and the kids weren't hopping in, I'm like, I never adapted to like, oh, where's the other spots that they're doing it? No, that's
Yeah, yeah. Twitter Spaces, I would say, is killed Clubhouse for sure. A lot of people. I think the major thing that Twitter Spaces had going over Clubhouse was that you could share like posts within the space itself. Like if you wanted to, let's say you wanted to reference an Instagram post or like a website within Clubhouse, you had to have like somebody go to another application. But with Twitter Spaces, you can like pin like a Twitter post to like the top of a space so people can just access it. It's all about like efficiency and ease of access. So I think that was like the killer app of that.
And when you were hosting after school every day, is it just kind of like I press host and you just do it, or did you kind of have an agenda going, or what did you do?
Sometimes I had and I like would like I definitely like I had built that reputation of somebody that hosted things. I had people reach out that had like kind of they wanted to talk about something they were making, and I would host them and like interview them. And in those cases, I would do like an itinerary, like say we're going to talk about this thing, then this thing, then this thing. But most of the time, I would just hop into Twitter. I would type in like, let's talk digital art NFTs as the title and just hit go. I would just kind of work on schoolwork and have it on the side. And I would just let people filter in, accept whoever wanted to come up. And we just talked for hours. I'm sure my parents were so sick of it, just hearing me talk in my room.
Yeah.
Like I was never like a big video games kid, but I would equate it to like, like teenagers that would go on like, I don't know, like Xbox Live or like Discord chats with their friends. And like, I don't know, this was me just talking to like a bunch of adults. It's strange when you think about it. But yeah, I've made some really cool friends through all of this, and I feel very artistically inspired to chase after new mediums beyond photography as well. And I'm working on my first ever short film right now, which is really exciting. I think I can talk about it. But it's this past summer I went to Iceland with my dad, and this was on a trip sponsored by Samsung. So I got to go to Iceland and bring him with me for like this 11-day adventure across the country, and record it. I don't know if you're familiar with the DJI Inspire.
Okay.
It's like this really massive cinema drone. It shoots 8K video. It's 75 frames a second. It's wild. So they sent me with that, and I have some of like the most incredible footage I've ever shot with that. And I'm kind of culminating it into a 5-minute film, which should hopefully release in April, with Samsung. And so like that's like sort of in the niche of things that I like used to do on Instagram, but even then it still feels like such a big jump from the type of stuff I was making in the past.
Right.
That I never would have had the opportunity to do or even the idea to do if it hadn't been for like this huge ecosystem switch in my life.
Right.
Yeah. So super excited to put that out into the world.
Dude, that's gonna be freaking sick. So is it all drone footage? You fit in some like B-roll on the ground in there? Or?
Yeah, no, I was shooting on both the drone and the Sony. The film itself is kind of actually telling the story about my dad and I, kind of discussing like, this is like a young creator. It's like, I think there's a lot of skepticism from parents, like when their kid says they want to be like an artist or a photographer. It's like, oh, couldn't you be like a lawyer or a doctor or something and pursue something, get an actual job?
Yeah.
But my parents were never really like that, which I thought was really special. They were like super encouraging of me pursuing what I wanted to do. And for me, like this trip was almost like a testament to the fact that they let me continue to chase my delusions of being an artist. And kind of the film itself is called Full Circle. And it's kind of talking about the adventures my dad and I used to go on.
Yeah.
And he would drive me out to these places in New England where I was at, because I was too young to drive.
Right.
And now I kind of got to flip the script on the head and bring him to Iceland with me.
Yeah.
So it's like felt like a very big milestone for myself.
Yeah. So most of your earlier photos like taken, you could probably say like your dad was probably there with you.
Yeah, he was probably behind the camera with me.
That's awesome.
Because like if I wanted to go somewhere, I was either biking there, like there were times that I biked for like 30 miles to take a photo.
Yeah.
And that, or like if it was too far, or like I wanted to take it at like sunrise, my dad would get up with me.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. Like he's such a busy guy, and the fact that he was able to fit that into his schedule, I think was really special.
Oh yeah.
Very blessed to have two very hands-on parents in my life.
When you're pursuing weird things, two supportive parents or a supportive parent is always, I mean, you need that. I mean, it's hard to do on your own for sure.
Absolutely. I would not be here without them.
Yeah.
Especially just like in New York as well, having their support is crucial to me.
Yeah. I'd be curious, where'd Samsung find you? I think that's always the most kind of interesting stories behind those, projects and stuff.
So yeah, again, this is another thing that boils down to NFTs. So when I started releasing work, I released my first series of photos that I released as NFTs were kind of astrophotography photos that I did, like Milky Way and night sky scenes, because that was what I was just into at the time. And kind of a really large portion of my work has always been drone, video, and photography. Like a lot of people know me for that. So I was like, okay, how can I take this body of work that I have and really kind of apply it to this new scene that I found myself in digital art? And one project that I began to work on at the end of 2022, I think it was a series I call Cinema in the Sky. And it's on this platform called Super Rare, which is like this invite-only platform for minting. At the time, it was like kind of a prestigious thing to be accepted onto, to like be able to share work on there. I think it's kind of a little easier now, like the barrier to entry is lowered. But like for me, at like, I guess I was like 19, getting on there to share work was like a huge deal for me. And so the series that I call Cinema in the Sky are like these 25, 45, I think one's even close to a minute, drone videos captured in scenes that I've been to all over the world, from like Hawaii to Italy, all the way to like my home state of Massachusetts. And I work with this German producer, his name's Clemens. He makes some of the best music you've ever heard. He does like movie trailers and stuff. He's amazing. And he would create original music for each piece that would be directly made for the clip itself. Like the music is really supposed to match like what the scenery is. Like if it's Hawaii, we had like a really kind of lush sounding audio with like birds and the waterfall and everything. And so it was a really cool collaborative experience to work with him. Our number one goal with like this series was immersion, because like I'm very fortunate to have been able to visit a lot of these amazing places around the world through my art and my work. And I really enjoy the process of sharing that with people and being able to give them like a glimpse. Like the work that I create is very centered around the experience and feeling that I have at a location. Not necessarily how it looks. Like if you scroll down my Instagram, most of the scenes that you see are not the actual appearance of a place. That's not what I'm after. Realism is for a lot of purists, that's only what matters. For me, I care about how a place makes me feel, and I want to amplify that through my photos and videos. Yeah. So Clemens and I honed in really on this idea of immersion and being able to transport a viewer watching one of these aerial videos, Cinema in the Sky, into this place. Like if you are watching this on a big screen, like it's like I almost want you to feel like you're there. So we worked really, like we were super determined with the audio and the visuals to make sure that like we're giving the viewer the best experience as possible. And so there's 5 of those NFTs right now that have sold to some amazing collectors and have funded a lot of art projects for myself. And that is where Samsung found me. Samsung wanted to kind of get their toes wet in the water with NFTs. They have kind of an extension of Samsung called Savage, which is kind of their Web3 display software, I guess you could call it. I don't really know exactly what they classify themselves as. But it's like this application that comes pre-installed on all Samsung TVs. And the biggest complaint that Samsung users have, because Samsung makes 8K TVs, so they're like the largest producer of those, is that, I don't know, let this fill out. The biggest complaint that Samsung TV users have is that there's not enough 8K footage for these to justify having an 8K TV. It just doesn't make sense. It's kind of ahead of the curve. So Samsung started to fund some projects that would, produce more 8K footage. And the DJI Inspire 3 had just come out. So they had access to that. And that shot 8K footage. And they had seen what I had done with these Cinema in the Sky stuff. And they kind of put 2 and 2 together. And they were like, hey, we have this drone. We want to fund something where you go somewhere, you can bring somebody and make something out of it. And I was like, bet.
Yeah.
So it was really, I think it's kind of one of the greatest projects that I've had the pleasure of working on so far. I'm really excited for people to see the outcome.
Oh, that is awesome. I didn't know if it'd be through kind of the NFT scene or not, just because I know a lot of your, well, not really, but from what I've seen, a lot of your pieces have just been photos from your camera, so I didn't know.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I mean, I would say the vast majority are still still photos. Still.
Yeah.
But I think actually the work that I've become more well known for is the video work.
Right. Yeah.
So that's also the direction I'm leaning in towards for the upcoming works past this film.
It feels like it's meant to be a little bit.
Yeah, I
being known for the drone work, since
there's a natural evolution too for I think a lot of photographers into video. It's like they almost become unsatiated with their medium, and they want to pursue something with more variables and more technique and difficulty even. And like I say this a lot, photos for me, it's not that they're easier, it's just like it's different because with the photo you're just controlling one frame. You're snapping the shutter once and all you have to worry about is whatever is in that singular frame. Whereas with videos, it's thousands of frames. And especially like for me, when my main focus with a lot of these pieces is immersion, if like the camera jerks for 1 second or there's like something within the frame that like pisses me off, it's like that what could be an entire 45-second piece is scrapped because there's like one artifact or one messy thing about it that completely ruins it for me. Whereas if it was a photo, I could just manage that one or take one of the frames and it wouldn't be a big deal. But because there's like, it's like a duration thing with video, I get like super wrapped up in the overall quality of like a minute long video. Like everything has to be exactly how I want it. I'm really detail oriented about the stuff that I produce. It like everything this is my world that I'm creating and everything has to be how I want it. Because I'm bringing people in, and if they're not getting what I wanted, then I'm like mad at myself.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So that's your Cinema in the Sky, right?
That's what I call it. I think it rolls off the tongue.
No, I mean, it's great. That was in 2022.
Yeah, and it's still an ongoing series. The last piece I released was actually in November of last year, because I've been so kind of heads down on this film. But I have hopefully some upcoming pieces from Norway, Portugal, Iceland, as well. That I don't know. That will be probably down the line this year. Yeah, I have a few other series. I have a series that I call A Boy's Quest, which is still images. Has 2 pieces right now. One was shot in the Italian Dolomites during a lightning storm, which was really wild. And one I created after I had broken my ankle and I was hiking through the sand dunes in Provincetown, Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of some very, I guess you could call them like sentimental pieces, like where the art is about like, a particular emotion provoked by a place, as with a lot of my work. So I don't know, man. I feel like I've rambled a lot, but the type of art that I'm focused on making right now is a lot about how I feel in environments.
Yeah.
And that's always been the way, but photography started as like a form of documentation for me, and now it's like almost like a soul storytelling
Right.
medium. And I'm always seeking for ways to better explain how I feel and the stories that I want to tell.
Mm-hmm. So let me umbrella these right. You got your 2 pieces that under the boys kind of umbrella. Boys Quest. So that's kind of yeah.
Yeah, I have like I try to like have these separate lanes for the types of work that I want to produce, which maybe is not the best long term, but it helps me stay organized mentally. It's like, okay, I want to work on this. I want to advance this project right
Even
now.
just me processing it, it's very easy to process,
Okay.
So I think it works good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always trying to think about the people that are like learning about this too. I want it to be easy for them, so
Yeah.
that makes me happy to hear.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and dude, I want to hear more about like the YouTube stuff that you're making because I haven't had a chance to watch any of it.
Yeah.
And it's potentially something I want to dive into in 2024 as well. Creating stuff there. Is it like day to day or is it?
It's right now it's once a week, and it's just to show that I'm thinking about YouTube. So it's just it's kind of more of a let's get the reps out. So
Holding yourself to it.
yeah. So some of them have just been lower effort. Let me put my OBS studio on. Let me put my face cam on and talk through, photos I've edited. Some of them earlier in the year have been, my journey to more of a documentary kind of thing. So this one of them was my journey filming a music video in under 20 hours. I don't do music videos, but I got reached out to and someone was tied on a deadline, and they lived in Michigan, which is 9 hours away from me, and I was able to make the decision, travel, shoot the video, edit the video, and get back home for release.
They paid you well.
Yeah, it did all right. I wouldn't have said yes if because that was a lot of work. Yeah, I needed some. So
Oh my God.
So I made a little film about that. That was more of like a behind the scenes video almost. And then earlier this summer I did a video called Overnight Drive to Wyoming, and it was more. That was the most documentary style I've done so far. I was like, I really wanted to do one before the trip, and then I said, nah, I don't want to do it. But then by halfway through the trip, I'm like, wait, I have enough footage to do this. Let's try to focus the story together. So I released that. But most of my stuff now is just like camera bag tours, like tours looking through my photos, more informational stuff like how I organize my digital files nowadays, and that's more, it's just more of the consistency thing, just another way that people can look at me and experience, what I have to say in different ways. So
I'm gonna go on an Isaac binge after this.
Yeah.
Rabbit hole.
I appreciate it. Yeah,
I want to see the world that you're making.
Yeah. So this year has been a big year for putting out stuff for me. It's easy for you. It can be easy to put your stuff aside, or for me, I guess, and focus on what the people that are paying you to do. You focus on that. But this year it's been a mindset switch. All right, Isaac Jarnagin is a client for me, and I need to make sure that they get their stuff on time.
Write that on like a big board and put it over your desk.
Yep. So
every time you look up, you see it. I do that with like Post-it notes.
Yeah.
Like I have a desk.
Yeah.
I write stuff so that I look up and it's just like a reminder.
Yeah. So I have a client list on my Notion, and I added Isaac Jarnagin to it, and I've been putting out weekly newsletters talking about what I'm up to, what pieces of work I've seen that have inspired me, and then also what content I've put out for the week. And then I have a weekly podcast where I talk to people doing similar avenue. No, not you're the first, but just like people doing cool stuff that I want to talk to. You
the
know?
odd one out.
Yeah. No. Uh, and then YouTube videos. So between those three
You have
mediums,
avenues, man.
yeah, I got my avenues going too, just in different ways.
I love
So,
that.
yeah.
I really admire that you're able. Are you still in school, or are you out
I
of
went
that?
through from school, so when I had my first thing going, I decided I wasn't happy in school. I was very not happy.
Yeah.
So I had a client going while I was in school, and I said, well, I could probably leave this and scrape by and make it work, and that's exactly what I did.
Let's
I
go.
I dropped, and because I wasn't there for the location like you. I'm in the middle of
Yeah.
Iowa, so it's like, it's not anywhere cool to be. But
Yeah, if you were enjoying it, then
yeah, it just wasn't. And I knew I wanted to put it in practice rather than practice my business, but it's not a business, in a school setting. So I did that and built up my sort of thing from there. And I've gotten to the point where I make a immediate income for my area. And I think that's a blessing, doing
Dude,
what you want to do and
in this
doing it
market,
on your own. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. I think so too. So
Yeah,
that's
that's really cool, man.
that's been me. Yeah.
I'm really happy for you.
I appreciate that.
The school is so interesting for me. Like,
Yeah.
like I was on the same edge. I was like, oh, do I want to go to university?
Mm-hmm.
Because like I felt like I'd already found what I wanted to be doing.
Yeah.
But like you said, like I had coming here brought me to the location that I wanted to be in.
Yeah.
Put me in a good spot. Of course, I had the support of my parents, which meant a lot to me as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because they wanted me to go to school.
Yeah. No, of course.
And I so far I like my courses.
Good.
I'm doing digital media and business, which is like super apt to my interests.
Right.
And meeting some cool people. So I don't think I have any room to complain
No.
about where I am right now. And so I think I'm gonna make it through my 4 years,
Mhm.
and then kind of return fully to the artistic grind or wherever I end up, if it's something maybe a little more standard. But
And honestly, I think that's a good way to get into New York too.
yeah,
I could see yourself, maybe you chose to go to New York and you chose to focus on what you had going on full time. I mean, I know for myself and what I do, like, you have to create a discipline in order to keep your stuff structured. You can grow your mind totally intense, making content and interacting on the internet every day, and to the point where you just don't do it and get your stuff in a mental hole. So I bet going to New York with kind of like, all right, I got some responsibilities, like
yes,
really real feeling responsibilities of me, is probably not a
gotta
bad
keep your
way to.
grades up.
Exactly. Yeah.
It definitely helps the way I think about it too. Also because I also struggle when there's a lack of structure in my life.
Yeah.
And I know because I usually take like 4 to 5 classes a semester, and that's I guess like maybe around. I'm not taking a math class right now, so forgive me for my math. It's probably like 30 hours a week of class work. And the way I look at that is that's like maybe 3 to 4 hours a day that's locked away for a responsibility, and that leaves me with kind of a lesser amount of time in the waking hours to do what I want to do, which I actually find makes me even more productive. Like,
Mhm.
because I'm aware of this limitation that I have, I am more wise with how I spend the time that is allotted. So I get my classwork done, I keep my grades up, and then I go out, explore the city, meet people, and make the art that I want to make.
Yeah.
And try to keep my head above the water
Yeah.
through it all. Yeah.
Do you see it as a spot you could be around for a while?
Yeah, if I can afford it.
Yeah.
Dude, New York City's expensive.
Oh,
So got to keep making good art.
yeah.
Or I don't know, make it big in crypto.
Right. Right.
But I would love to stay here. Maybe find a nice little spot in Brooklyn after I graduate would be nice. I have some cool friends out there. if not, then I think I might be a little nomadic,
Mhm.
go around and see some places that I've been wanting to see. Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking a lot about what I want in life. Um, and I think the two pillars that I have in my life right now are art and adventure. And if I can somehow sustain the two of those things, then I will be a very happy person.
Yeah.
And
No easy feat.
yeah, things will change. I have a habit of like trying to commit myself to something that like isn't really long term, like a vision, and like it shifts, and I'm like, oh, why did I become so concrete about that?
Yeah.
But I can say for pretty much certain that those two are always going to remain constants in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Do
fun.
you ever try to boil yourself down? It's like, all right, who is as Jarnagin? Like, what am I? Because I try to be that all the time.
You know, immediately when you say that, not that this is what you mean, but I think about like being into like exploring yourself with like all of those personalities and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say I stray away from that a little bit. I don't know why. I just kind of like I do me, and I've built up these skills, and I do this stuff really hard. So I just kind of be like, this is kind of who I am and what I do, and yeah, whatever I can, if I'm in emotion and I'm happy doing it, I'm like, this is me. I think,
Absolutely.
you
I
know,
think that's amazing. I find myself like being almost overly introspective
yeah,
sometimes, like to the point where I like grind myself to a halt because I think about what I'm doing too much.
hmm
And that has like long plagued the art that I make.
right,
Like I need a little more doing in my life and not so much thinking sometimes.
yeah.
It's the way that I look at it.
And I find it funny that I say that because I'm analytical when I need to be, but in some areas I'm just not. I I I don't see the I'm a big long-term benefit guy. I don't like short-term benefit too much.
Good.
So like, because I think those are where you get hurt too on those short terms. That's where those things you can fall into. So I don't see I see the little bit of long-term benefit of really going into yourself. But like you said, it's easy to over analyze, which I've probably done in the past. That's probably why I stray away from it, is I've over analyzed a little bit to the point where I don't know what the heck is happening.
Yeah.
So
I'm not at the point where I've traumatized myself with it
yeah,
yet, but
yeah.
it's
Maybe on your way toward it.
yeah, maybe eventually. In the time being, I do a little overthinking.
Yeah.
But it definitely leads me to. I mean, I am where I am today because of all of that. So I can't knock it too much,
Yeah.
even if it pains me sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. One thing I'm curious about, I did a little bit of looking in to your stuff beforehand. Can you talk about kind of the evolution of the platforms that you're working on and minting your stuff on?
Yeah.
Like there's more than just, OpenSea out there,
Yeah. No, it's kind of an ongoing discussion within the digital art world, like where artists are. The term is minting. Like it would just be like creating an asset on the blockchain. That's what minting is.
Yeah, I felt cool saying it, so.
Yeah. No, dude, you nailed it. You're like on your way to becoming an
Yeah.
NFT person.
Yeah.
No, there's like a lot of people that like are really firm about minting your work in one place, and I think it's kind of silly to limit yourself to only putting your stuff in one place. But my strategy with it all kind of falls back into what I was talking about earlier with my project avenues. Like I like to use certain platforms to mint things that fall under a certain like category of mine.
Hmm.
So I use Super Rare for all my aerial cinematography and videos. I use a platform called Foundation for in the past, a lot of my nature photography. I use OpenSea. I've put a lot of my more urban work there from Boston.
Mhm.
And I think some from New York eventually. Like I one of my past passions has been like urban exploring, like
Yeah.
uh, city rooftops, tunnels, all that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
Um, so I have that sort of stuff on OpenSea. There's one more that's not so much a platform as it is like a service for your own sorts of contracts and platforms. It's called Manifold. And that's where like my recent Boys Quest series has been taking place. Um, but I like having the separation of mediums or genres of work that I'm doing on different platforms.
Mhm.
To like once again make it a little easier for people to digest my body of work. I don't think it's gonna matter long term necessarily. I
Mhm.
think it's all gonna kind of blend into one stream. Doesn't really matter where you mint from.
Yeah.
But for the time being, I that's how I look at it.
Yeah. Dang. And another
Kind
thing
of in the same
that's
way that like you have like YouTube for the longer form content
yeah.
and you have Instagram for reels. It's like it's the same concept.
Immediately what I thought about when you said, I don't think it matters posting because I know they're hosting different purposes. I'm guessing,
Yeah,
internally.
absolutely.
That's immediately what I thought of the different social platforms.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of parallels. Like I think I've been able to thrive in NFTs a lot of because I've learned so much about like the social media world.
Yeah.
Um, like I wouldn't have had nearly as much like initial success had it not been for like the prior 5 year background on Instagram.
Hmm.
Because it really taught me a lot about kind of the digital landscape.
Hmm.
And making connections and friendships.
Yeah.
So definitely, although Instagram kind of like seems like the devil for a lot of social media creators now, I think it's like I don't know, it's been an essential chapter of a lot of our stories.
Hmm.
Still kind of we weave in and out of it.
Yeah. And you talked about, let's think about NFTs or sorry, even crypto and NFTs as a whole world right now.
Yeah.
Is your world that you're diving into a specific niche of that part? Is that kind of what you describe it as? Or
Yeah. Like I think crypto and NFTs is a very overarching umbrella,
right?
and you have like the PFPs that are like Bored Apes
Yeah.
and Pudgy Penguins are another one. It's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
these alliterative animal names,
Yeah.
which I think are funny.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's almost like this sector that's like striving to integrate itself in, or not even like it's technical, but like they're trying to become an established uh, kind of art medium in the same way where like past art movements have had like I don't know, I kind of compare it almost to like graffiti and hip hop in New York in like
Yeah.
the 1980s and 90s,
Yeah.
which is like it's everybody frowns on it at the time. It sounds super stupid, but it kind of looking back becomes like a small little cultural
Yeah.
revolution that like impacts future culture.
Mhm.
And this is could very well be me being naive. But I think that the digital art world is going to have a massive impact on the future. I think it's only going to get bigger. We're headed towards a world where the digital environment is much more prevalent in our lives. We just saw like the Apple Vision Pro come out.
Mhm.
If we're living in digital lives, then we need digital assets,
Yeah.
digital art,
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff. I think that the people that are creating in this niche that I found are definitely like some of the smartest people I've encountered.
Yeah.
People that have backgrounds in tech, finance, law, have had major artistic accomplishments in institutions. And it's just like this melting pot of gigabrains.
Yeah.
And it like from the outside, it all looks so goofy and silly. And like I think sometimes people in the space take themselves a little too seriously, but I think the long-term effect of it will be really monumental. And so I have placed my eggs in this basket. It's the belief that I hold, and I'm just gonna ride it out and see where it goes.
Yeah. And you say you place all your eggs in the basket. What's
Not
that?
all of
No, I get that. I get
a
that.
majority though. Like this is where I spend my time, and this is where I'm building. And if it all
Okay.
goes to shit, I'll have to
Yeah.
definitely reorganize a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'd be curious what's your just like current beliefs on just like crypto on its own? Like, are you like vesting monthly in it and you're gonna be like, this is taking over? Or is it kind of like a way that, or is it just kind of a way like, hey, this is kind of like a side thing and it's cool and there's a digital art space and like, yeah, you need crypto to kind of buy and sell, but I don't have
I'm
much belief in it. Okay.
I hold some would consider large positions in crypto,
Oh,
not buying.
it's your space,
Right. Yeah.
see what.
It's like this is a space that I'm active in. It makes sense for me to be invested in it.
Yeah.
Um, and so like during the previous months and in 2023, I was building my stack of not financial advice, but I mean Ethereum and Bitcoin, because kind of lying on the same thesis that I think we're moving towards a world where digital things matter
Oh
a
yeah.
lot more than they do right now, and that involves digital assets and digital currency. Um, I personally see maybe a bit of a rocky but upward trajectory in value for a lot of these things.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely a portion of my net worth that is crypto based. That goes without saying. And I'm comfortable with that because I think in life it's really important in life to have conviction in certain things. If you don't really have any strong beliefs, like all your beliefs fall in just like the middle, then I think there's like a lacking of passion. And I've found myself just over the years becoming very passionate about this.
Mm-hmm.
So if I won't really like put my money where my mouth is, then I feel like a fraud.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I develop very extreme mindsets with this sort of stuff, as
Yeah.
you can tell.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm at.
Dude, it's nothing that doesn't make sense. So like, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe it feels like it's extreme, but I mean,
There's days where I'm like, holy shit, I've like messed up my entire life. What am I doing?
yeah.
But then the next day I'm like, oh, everything's fine.
No,
Uh,
I think you're in a great spot. I mean, one thing we kind of go into here quick is uh entering the space. Maybe
yeah.
what are your thoughts on that? Is it something you can do kind of like as a side thing, or do you really have to dive in 100%? You know, the stereotype I see before you start going here is, like especially here a few years ago is, they see people in these massive numbers that these things are selling for, and they go on, they post a photo, and they give up. And that's not how that goes. Like, and that was obviously a few years ago when I saw people doing that. But
Yeah.
what are your thoughts here now?
I think you could have gotten away with that a few years ago because there was an absurd amount of capital flowing around that would just buy anything. Nowadays, if you are looking to enter the space, I do think it is a commitment. It's not something that you can just kind of drop in, drop out of. If you are an artist looking to have NFTs as like a viable income stream, then the people that are going to be sustaining that income are collectors and crypto people. And 9 times out of 10, the quality of work, I don't think will cut it. It's kind of about your presence. It's about your impact on other people in the space.
Yeah.
It's about what you're actually providing to others in the ecosystem.
Right.
And that's not really something that you can do by just like maybe putting in 10 minutes a day.
No.
Like the people that I see performing the best, and actually having like, sizable incomes based off of this are like on like Twitter or making art for like hours a day. Or like sometimes even the entire day. It's kind of something you have to fully commit yourself to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of people that like have a job in this, but it's almost like a second job, I would say.
Yeah.
Especially like back in the day, I was my screen time was outrageous.
Yeah.
And that's just, it's unfortunately just comes with it. Like, of course I wouldn't necessarily want to be on like terminally online. But I've committed myself to this space. I really enjoy spending time talking to people on these platforms.
Yeah.
So to me, it just kind of feels like an extension of my life. But definitely not something that you can enter and just kind of mess around and make a lot of money. You have to make an impact on people.
Yeah. And do you think it'll get to a point where you can where it'll just be more of a thing, like you want to throw your photos online, and you think it'll get to a point where it's less involved, or you think
I hope so.
it's yeah.
Like I compare it. This is maybe another outlandish comparison. But like early internet, where like at the start, like there was a couple million, not even, really dedicated users, like because the barrier to entry for the internet was so difficult. You needed to have like even like pre AOL, you needed to have like, you know, AOL was like dial-up internet, and before that you had to have access to like military or like a university or foundation to have access to the internet, and those were people that really cared about it, and so they did it. And slowly pretty rapidly over time, it becomes more like normalized, the access to it. And I think we'll see a similar thing with like blockchain technology, where it becomes more embedded in our lives without people even realizing it. Crypto will kind of have maybe a mass adoption moment. We're kind of already seeing inklings of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of unknown what that will do to the value of a lot of these things. Since so many NFTs and cryptocurrencies rely on scarcity for their value and kind of speculation. If there's more people involved, it's difficult to know whether that will diminish or actually uphold the value.
Yeah.
But I do see a world, especially with NFTs, where people are just putting iPhone photos on the blockchain as a way of preserving them. The blockchain is like a ledger where you can, permanently place a digital asset, and you don't have to worry about, like, say Instagram goes down one day, all of our photos and reels and conversations that we've posted on that, because Instagram is a centralized platform, are gone. But the blockchain, because it's upheld by thousands of computer systems worldwide, unless there's like a crazy geostorm from the sun that wipes out all of technology, then you don't really have to worry about the blockchain going down.
Yeah.
If we get a crazy geostorm, we have bigger problems,
Mm-hmm.
and then the blockchain. But I think that there's these systems have a lot of potential upsides for the greater civilization. So I think there's going to be more users in the future.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I see it right now. I can, I have more knowledge than the usual person, and I can have a grasp on that space and understand it. But
There's an energy, man.
Yeah.
I don't know how to quite put it into words, but it feels like it's on the cusp of something.
It is.
Yeah. So I'm just holding on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you invested in crypto at all?
I have a third of an ETH, or you call it ETH, right? Yeah. So I'm big in there.
Yeah,
because
that's
Ethereum's
more
the
than
space, and
99%
ETH is
of
the.
people.
I know. Yeah, I feel cool.
You
But
saw it touched 3K today.
yeah, I've seen it. I've seen both kind of hopping up a little bit. Yeah.
Bitcoin's over 50K.
Yeah. So I'm up on my, what I bought in at. Yeah, I'm cool and stuff. But,
Yeah. Right about it.
it's a space that I've neglected simply because I don't know if I have the passion that it takes to be in it, like what you need to be in.
No, you have to be delusional.
Yeah. And I see the people that are successful, and it's because they give back to the space.
Yeah, they're really passionate about it. They care. They don't like one of the most successful people I know. His name is Eric Calderon. He goes by Snowfro on Twitter, and he has a project called Squiggles, and it's like these rainbow lines that I think there's 10,000 of them, and they're NFTs, and they sell currently for like 7 to 10 Ethereum. And it's not necessarily because of the aesthetic value is there, like they're fun to watch and look at, But the real reason that they hold value is because of the guy who created them. Snowfro is one of the most like generous and well-rounded people in this space. He's always kind of helping out people. He founded a platform for other people to release art projects on. So the people that are really thriving, I would say, in crypto, for the most part, are people, like I said, that have had an impact on others.
Yeah.
Whether that's their financials or their thinking or their just overall happiness. So especially like if you are going to enter the NFT space, and not just you, but anybody listening, I think your initial focus should be giving before you take, because it's going to come back, and people are going to remember like how you started. And so I'm always kind of trying to work with that mindset on like, okay, how can I provide, and maybe it will kick back one day.
And there's multiple types of value you can give, your thoughts
value,
and insights, and just being a part of it. That's a part of giving,
Yeah, it's super subjective. I think you can really take it so many ways, and everybody is good at something. Not everybody knows what that is yet. But if you can figure out what you're good at and maybe fill in other people's blind spots, then people are going to appreciate that.
Yeah. One thing too is when I kind of took away NFTs, I heard of someone in the space say like 99% of these projects are going to die, 1% are going to flourish. And he kept saying,
it's probably Gary V.
Gary V, exactly. And then what I really took from that was utility. Like, what does this NFT enable you to do? Is that huge in this kind of art NFT space? Like, if you have this, then this can happen.
I think the word utility is really interesting. It was much more thrown around with like Bored Apes and other profile picture projects.
Yeah.
I would say utility is not as fundamental within digital art space.
Yeah.
There's a phrase that I like where it's like the artist is the utility.
Yeah.
It's like by buying a digital artwork, it's almost like you're placing your trust in a financial interpretation of that.
Yeah.
In this artist, that they are going to continue to create. They're going to hone their skills. They're going to work because they are an artist, because they create endlessly. That's like what they want to do. And so that is almost the utility, that they are committing their life to make stuff. And there's certain art projects that have been released that have like utility, like, I don't know, like getting you into parties or something.
Yeah. Hey, I feel like maybe some of yours have had some too, ish.
Yeah. No, I've definitely had some. Like the utility has even been like claiming a physical print or experience or something, or even something as simple as me just buying you a drink.
Right.
But like, I think that the space has shifted away from utility and more so valuing the creator and the creation, which is a cool shift to see.
Yeah, and that's not weird to me to think about at all. I think the art world is kind of always a weird world to think about and how it works. But even with like physical art, it's the same thing. Like, why are you buying a piece of paper for thousands of dollars or whatever? I mean, it's the same thing in the digital world. So I can see why that would flourish without the utility aspect that I heard tossed around a lot in the NFT community. But when I see like things like through like Logan Paul's big project and Gary V's big project, like I can see why. Well, those were still art, but I could see why some of these projects would need utility to work. Like,
definitely,
so
because
I could see both ways.
I look at NFTs as well as like, and some of my friends use this term, it's like the devil's casino. And a lot of the people that are buying digital art and NFTs are like gamblers, pretty much. I mean, we're built on this ecosystem of speculation and coins and so many crazy things. So it's actually hilarious that there's like a small art revolution between it all. And the reason that like utility was so big was because it was like an added speculative dance for a lot of these things. Like it could potentially drive value because people's imaginations would drive wild on what a certain thing could do for them. And so it was kind of to the benefit of the founder to promise utility, but it like almost never lives up to what the holders of the project want. So it's kind of just like you're shooting it. I mean, you're making like short-term financial gain, but you're kind of shooting your long-term reputation in the foot. So I definitely am very wary if I am promising something, because I want to make sure that the expectations I'm setting are understood.
Yeah.
Like with what I'm making. And most of the time that's just like, hey, I'm making something. If you resonate with it, then, you know, you can have it in your collection. If we agree on a price and some other things. So I'm very kind of rudimentary. Like I just want to make stuff, and then I'll take whatever energy you give back to me through ETH or other means to continue making art and having adventures in life.
Yeah, it truly is a space where the people are just fueling everyone, bounce back.
It's very, definitely the energy kind of is constantly cycling back in, which I think is really cool. And as we have more external sources enter, it helps a lot.
Yeah. Looking forward, I know you've done kind of your basic do projects, get money with businesses in the past, kind of more like what I do. Sorry, projects, you're probably thinking of NFT projects. What I'm going back to
No, I get you. Don't worry, I'm not that tunnel vision.
Is that in your forefront at all upcoming, or is that kind of gonna drop off? Like,
so, yeah, good question. One of the things that I really love that NFTs have allowed me to do is that I'm like creating pieces that are wholly me. They're entirely me. And like in the past, if I was to go on like a trip, I would have to focus on like creating work for a client in their campaign and getting all that done before I could even focus on really what I wanted to be making, which was something for myself. And now I can like use the funding from these projects that I'm making to continue to make stuff that I want to make. I definitely won't turn down client jobs if there's something that is interesting to me.
Samsung.
Samsung for one is like, of course, there's no way I'm turning that down. But I have turned down some names. The reason I went with Samsung was just because they gave me so much flexibility. They were like, hey, we have this like overarching mission. We trust you to make something that you want to make. And that was like, okay, you see my creative vision is of value to you. And if I do more commercial projects, that's more like what I'm looking for, because I want somebody that picks me to create what I want to make, because really the stuff that I'm super passionate about making is going to result the best for the brand, because it's going to turn out the best. Like if you're kind of forcing me to make something that's not in my wheelhouse, then it's counterintuitive. And so I might have some cool stuff planned in 2024. I haven't really locked in anything. But I can guarantee you that if I do it, it's because I really want to do it. I definitely had my days of like, oh yeah, it's like, okay, you'll pay me to make something, I'll make it. But nowadays, because I'm very fortunate to have had some success with this other revenue stream, I don't have to be so dependent on campaigns or client partners. So definitely feels good to have escaped that rhythm a little bit. But I think that there's still a lot of value to do it, especially for like portfolio building. And eventually it like may actually help you discover what you want to do. Like I think doing all those client jobs helped me actually discover more of my passion for photo and video, which I might have not done on my own. It's good for experimenting.
Yeah. I mean, I think avenues aside of how we're doing it, I think we're both going for the same goal as we want to do creatively or personally what we want when we want.
Yeah, it's kind of about freedom.
Yeah, it is. So
it seems like you're well on the way, man.
Yeah.
I'm really excited that you have like these avenues with the social media stuff, but it seems like you're also very intent on doing what you want to do.
exactly.
People get really wrapped up in what others expect of them.
Yeah.
But it seems like Isaac knows what Isaac wants.
Yep. Yeah, I think what I'm doing to live right now is my avenue that's closest to me to in order to sustain that. But ultimately the goal is that you're paving your way towards a way of complete freedom.
Yeah.
And now that just sounds like I'm gonna dump out what I'm doing right now. Like that's not how it works. Like we're talking years and years of work towards along the way. But I truly think that's what we're both heading toward in our own different ways. So I totally see that.
Dude, I'm so excited we get to catch up.
Yeah.
So we should make like a monthly call or something, and I'm definitely gonna go on a little YouTube binge.
Yeah.
See the type of stuff that you've been making.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I always have unlimited questions, just understanding, and your way of life. And
my DMs, man. Just
yeah, you see me. I'm on Twitter now a little bit. I'm getting on
I see you.
the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
New York has actually been somewhere I want to go, so I need to pop out and get the in experience. Yeah, you got a couch? You got a floor? Yeah, a floor helps. Yeah. I gotta know what's the square foot on that place.
Oh, I can tell you, it's probably like spiky. So that's my bed.
Yeah,
That's my roommate's bed. It's from
Yeah.
Philadelphia.
that's awesome.
I'm really bad at estimation.
No, that's fine. Yeah, yeah.
So that hopefully the visual did it. But no, you can take the bed. I'll take the floor.
I appreciate it. Yeah,
Yeah, I got
my life right now is like, a lot of my work is just kind of on the computer. So my mindset is I'm just gonna live where it's cheap, since I don't have as many NFT relationships that I want to explore. So I'm in the middle of Iowa. I got a giant space. It's super cheap, and I love it. And I travel when I need to travel, so it's all fun. But dude, I appreciate you taking the time. I definitely would love a monthly call. So
yeah,
we'll get that going.
let's make something of it.
I appreciate it.
Cool,
I appreciate you taking the time again. Thank you so much.
You, man. Thanks for having me on here. This is awesome.
Yeah. Have a good one, man.
Yeah, you too, dude.